the myth of Hindu terror. I mean, you wrote extensively about the Congress party and its senior leaders and the manufactured story about how Hindu outfits are causing terrorist incidents across the country. The book was widely debated, read, analyzed. There were a lot of television debates also around it. Looking back at that book right now, since you're now going into your third book right now, in between there's the second book, The Deception, which of course I have with me here, holding it right up here. There are a lot of things that happened in that book. A lot of people in India were not aware of what really happened. And that particular book actually set off a lot of cat among the pigeons, literally speaking. How did you come to write that book?
See, the game changer was the Ishrat Jahan case. I was standing up for the truth, and now that has been validated by the courts of law. Whereas I was hounded, I was harassed because of some sort of a sportsman type background. I could stand up to those because of the body conditioning and all. I was harassed, and it was a single point agenda. That the agenda was a particular CBI director had promised the mother, as you said, had recalled, that he will put Safed Dadi and Kali Dadi behind the bars. The entire Ishrat Jahan narrative was built around that. The SIT, I mean, after the Ishrat Jahan had died, it was basically the entire thing got revived in the 2009, after 5 years after her. And it was basically an unholy agenda, with the unholy agenda of trying to frame the then Chief Minister and the then Home Minister, who are incidentally the Prime Minister and the Home Minister of the country. And that was the simple point agenda. 1st December, very rarely do you find that a victim gets an entitlement to an officer, investigating officer of his choice in the SIT. But 1st December 2011 judgment of the Gujarat High Court directing setting up of an SIT was a very unique case. I do not want to go into the judgment on trying to be erring on the side of safety and caution. But while giving this mandate also, Satish Verma, the officer of the choice of the victim's kin, was given a very specific mandate even as per the order of the High Court. But he had overstepped his mandate, taken over the reins of the SIT and trying to frame all sorts of people, harassing people, witnesses. It was not that I was the only person who was harassed. A special director of IB himself has been a testimony to it, who generated the report as the station in charge of Ahmedabad. The first SSP or SP or an SSP, a Gujarat police officer, she too was harassed when I was also being harassed in a different room. A very, very vital cog. See, we are all government officers. Ishrat Jahan, Javed Sheikh, Amjad Rana and Zishan Johar. Let me put it very clear. Amjad Rana and Zishan Johar were Pakistanis living in India illegally. Having been thrown out of Kashmir once, they had somehow managed to get back into India. In the entire Ishrat Jahan narrative, nobody ever questioned their presence in the car.
One more thing, Mr. Mani, I remember distinctly this second name which you mentioned, gentleman from Kerala who was actually
Javed Sheikh. Javed Sheikh,
Yeah.
He was originally Pranesh Pillai. His father was still, his father is no more, but till the date of his harness, he was Gopinathan Pillai, who had been a petitioner in the case, fighting for his kin's, justice for his kin. His name was Pranesh Kumar Pillai, but he had converted, and also he was a petty criminal in the Thane area. Then he managed to go to Gulf, where he was converted, radicalized, and thereafter sent back to India to carry out these type of activities. So that was the call. That is when the calling came, because I had been privy to so many meetings, so many information. Repeatedly they would say it is a Hindu terror. If you had read my first book, Myth of Hindu Terror, an attempt was made to take me as a hostage, and trade off for Ajmal Kasab so that the Hindu terror narrative could be reinforced.
I remember they tried to kidnap you when you were trying to go on your motorcycle, if I'm not wrong.
It was a car, it was a newly purchased car.
Okay.
And somehow it failed. And after that, I reported it to the Home Ministry. Within one day, Home Secretary had sent the file to the then newly brought in Home Minister, who slept on the file for 19 days before it was reported to the Commissioner of Police. So, my incident, which happened on 30th and reported on 31st of December 2008, the letter was sent after the clearance from Chidambaram on 19th of January 2019 by the Special Secretary, Home Ministry. So, at that time we did not join any dots. We were thinking that our minister must have been busy and so. But later on, when the reply came, I have put a copy of the reply from the Ministry of Commissioner of Police, Delhi Police in that. If you join the dots contained in the reply, it is very clearly shows that a police post where I had reported was practically vacant of all personnel.
You mean an empty police station?
Empty
Delhi.
Police station in Delhi.
Is it possible?
It is not possible. See, there is a case material, there are valuables, etc., which have to be placed before the evidence. That is the Kosha Khana. Then there may be people in custody, under the police custody. If it is empty, it is an open invitation for them to escape and also loot the Tosha Khana or whatever Mal Khana or whatever it is where the seized materials are kept. They can run away with it. But it says this constable was deployed here, this SHO was deployed here, this sub-inspector was deployed here, X, Y, Z. And as a matter of fact, there was nobody in this police station. Can it be something more laughable?
Which is very strange.
It is there, it is a Delhi police letter. And later on somebody told me, don't pursue this, because it was an attempt by, this was told by a very, very senior intelligence officer, an IPS officer.